Our first adventure comes from Reddit. Username is mygoodfriend96, and the headline is, have you ever had tenants you never raise the rent for because they're excellent tenants? We're in our second year of renting out our second house. Tenants have been great. I did not raise their rent and basically have no plans to. Our mortgage on this house is low, and I feel like we want these people to stay. They've given us zero issues, knock on wood, always pay on time, and are good tenants. I mean, we could raise it, but it's not a necessity on our end. Has anyone else done this? What are your first thoughts?
Well, shoot, a good tenant is worth keeping around. So if you don't have a pressing business need to raise the rent, I personally would not. What about you?
Yeah, a weird question. I'm just going to say it's a weird question, right? Because if all of your expenses are covered, then why? Why raise the rent? Who is pressuring you to raise the rent? Other landlords who want to increase their bottom line, I guess?
Yeah, I do think that there is significant pressure, or at least a preconceived notion that you should be looking to raise rent whenever possible. Mm-hmm. And so if you are not raising rent, are you being like a bad landlord? I would say no, you're being a good landlord, especially if you're keeping in mind that this is someone you're having, a great professional time with. They are paying on time. The rates in your area haven't increased too much. You haven't done too much additional work to the actual rental. Like, why increase? Why create a friction point in this relationship that's already going really well?
Absolutely. Yeah. The news has been covered the last few years about rent prices going up almost everywhere. We're here in Denver. It's definitely gone up in Denver. But if your tenant knows that that is the story in a lot of the country and they know that their rent is not going up, guess what? They love you even more. That's awesome. I think something else in this is my good friend 96 says that they're renting out their second house. So it sounds like they have multiple properties. Maybe they want to expand to other properties. It makes it a lot easier to fill those other properties with great tenants if your current great tenants can give you a referral.
Absolutely. I'd say play the long game. If it's not necessary for your business, if you're not struggling, keep the rent where it's at. Even thank them for being a good tenant. You don't have to go in there with your chest all puffed and be like, don't you worry, I'm not raising rent. I'm such a good landlord. Instead, really treat it as something like, hey, you have been wonderful. I'm so excited to have you in the rental, hopefully for another year. Let's schedule that lease renewal date. There you go. Yeah. If you're really feeling like you want to go above and beyond, maybe give them a little gift or send them a little card. It really goes a long way.
Absolutely. So the underlying question to me in this is, how do you determine your rent price? And we actually have a tool on our website, totally free. You can plug in your address, your property details, and it will tell you a range. It'll say on the low end, here's this. On the high end, there's this. So you can pick your price in there. And I think something to keep in mind when determining your rent is, what are your expenses? Do you have a mortgage? How much is that? How much money are you setting aside for repairs or maintenance or, yard work, cleaning, all these kinds of things? Hopefully you are setting aside some money for that. And then if the rent covers all that, that's great.
Exactly. If your bases are covered, you have money in the bank to fall back on just in case something happens, you're in a healthy spot. You really don't have to fall into the trap that we often see landlords start to stumble into, where they're thinking, I need to keep raising rent. I need to treat this as 100% a business without any thought of the human aspect. Like, I just need to be jacking up that price. And truly, you don't. If you are getting all of your needs met, you have a cushion just in case things go awry, then I'd say keep rent consistent. You can always use our calculator to make sure it's in a healthy range. And I will say, too, if you do find down the road that you need to increase rent, that's typically a conversation had at a lease renewal time. And that's a little bit easier to swallow than like mid-lease or anything of that nature. So use the tools at your disposal, but it sounds like you're in a good spot. You don't need to rock the boat.
Absolutely. Keep those great tenants.